Hello and welcome to this week's podcast. We are LPS, and I am joined by our superintendent, Mr. Hime. Welcome back, sir.
Oh, awesome. These are exciting to do, and we're hearing a lot of good feedback that we're actually, people are watching this, which it's becoming a way to communicate, and that's one thing we really want to work on is communicating with our staff and our families and our students. So as things change, it seems like every day that they know that we're concerned with their thoughts and their ideas on how things should look. So obviously we're going to move forward and start answering some questions, and so please submit questions as you get a chance. And in the next podcast, we'll try to answer the most asked questions and try to continue that communication process.
That's right. And so last week we pushed out the educational options that we have available for Lawton Public Schools. And you did share that in the last podcast about the 3 models. And we had some questions from our families. So today I want to take those questions and give them to you and get your answers, okay? So let's start. We had one from a family that said, will virtual lessons still be hands-on learning? And what does that look like?
Well, one thing we want to continue to emphasize is we're going to be very flexible, and the ideal is to make it as like the classroom as we can. We're going to try to align our curriculum where the virtual students are doing the same thing the students in the classroom are. We're going to assign teachers to students that are virtual, and so that you'll have access to those teachers while you're doing those classes. And obviously, we're going to try to improve this as we go. And so it's going to be learning is the thing we want to emphasize. It won't be the distance learning we did last year in April and May, where we were just trying to maintain, and in some cases, in some schools, we're just trying to get work for students to do. This will truly involve introducing new standards, new skills, and learning should take place.
And the online portion of it, for those families that are choosing that 100% model, it's Edgenuity and Odyssey, where it's those type of...
Yeah, and that's going to depend on what grade level you are. In the secondary level, 6 through 12, if you prove it, we're going to try to do the Edmentum Ingenuity. We're going to look at the different platforms and try to have more than one available that best fits the needs of particular students. Again, that's the flexibility part, but there will be a online platform. But again, the goal is to introduce the new standards, the new skills as we progress with our scope and sequence. At the same time, they're introduced in the classroom. So if you're online and after a month or so things get a lot better and you feel like you would like to bring your student back to what we're calling the traditional school, you could bring them back in, and that would be a seamless merge. And vice versa, if your child's at school and you're exposed, or you feel like the school's been exposed and you don't feel safe and you would like to keep your child at home for a couple weeks, then again, it would be a seamless move and they wouldn't get behind. I've likened it to a road. We're going to Tulsa. It's Interstate 44. If you got a great teacher and everything's great, we know we're going to set our cruise at 75 because, obviously we're not going to go 76 on Interstate 44 and we're going right straight to Tulsa. The online and some of those, you may liken it to, there might be some road construction because we never expect that we can develop an online home platform that'll be equal to that face-to-face in the classroom with that great teacher, because that teacher is the most important variable in a classroom. But we're going to try to make that as like we can and keep everybody on the same path.
Okay, so to that same note with the teacher interaction, will parents still have the ability and students to interact with the teacher if they choose virtual?
Yes, the students who choose virtual will be assigned a teacher, and that teacher will interact with the parents. The parents will have an email address. We hope the ability to text or various communication methods, because obviously if a student's at home working and the teacher they hit a snag or whatever, we would like to have a quick, seamless communication. Obviously, if 10 people text her at the same time, she or he could not answer all 10 questions instantaneously, but hopefully we'll work and try to improve that communication as we go. But the goal is to make the online as much like the face-to-face as we can.
Perfect. Okay, we have another question. What will daily participation look like for those that are going virtual or happen to be in the hybrid?
Well, the hope is that we're daily assigning lessons and we're daily moving through. Obviously, there's the virtual that we had last year with Lawton Virtual Academy, where students enroll in virtual, especially high school age, where they're doing credit recovery and they're working at their own pace. At the elementary level, again, we'd like to keep them at the same pace as their peers and everyone working together so that they can seamlessly move from online to traditional based upon the present situations. We hope to have a teacher who's assigned to that student so you can communicate with them, but you should get your lessons on a daily basis so you can move through.
Okay, now we had another question. It says, why not offer a blended elementary model?
Well, the blended model, it gets a little bit, the hybrid model can be the blended model, but the blended we talk about in the secondary is more about extracurricular activities. We don't have football, basketball, extracurricular activities at the elementary. So, the students come for reading and math. So, obviously if a parent, we're going to be flexible, and you could say it's blended because we can move them from back and forth from virtual to traditional as needed. Again, we're going to strongly recommend we limit those things for the betterment of the student. But, so there are lots of options open. The definitions can get a little and wordy, and we've worked really hard to try to simplify this as much as we could. But again, flexibility is the key. If any individual parent, there's a role or a path they would like to look at, we'll definitely explore it and see if we can do what's best for the student without being disparaging other students.
Okay, we had a question about PreK. Why isn't PreK offered as a virtual model?
And we've had that discussion, and we may continue to have that discussion as we move forward. I would definitely say if there's parents out there that have PreK and they really want virtual for their PreK student, and that's really the choice they want, they probably should contact us, and we'll see. It's just, we are getting iPads for our PreK students, so we would have devices to share with them. It's just that at the PreK age, it just doesn't look as strong to us as we developed it. We just started with K. PreK is not mandatory yet. Some students don't choose PreK, but obviously if you as a parent are interested in some kind of PreK online where we provide you some lessons and provide you some resources, and we produce teachers and different people, please let us know, and obviously we'll explore those options, because again, we want to be flexible, and for lack of better terminology, we work for the parents. Our product is the students. We work for the students. So in working for you and your families, we will do what we can to make this the best possible situation we can.
All right, and I have one more question before we go to break. Will the students still be considered part of their individual schools, or will they solely be considered an LPS student?
No, students will stay with their home school. That's the goal. That's the goal with the seamless and trying to keep everyone on the same path. We want to keep your identity, especially if you're virtual, with the school, your neighborhood school, because, obviously we all hope and pray that at some point we're back to what we consider normal. At some point, 2020 or 2021 is back to what 2018 or 2019, because it's important to us to get there. So yes, we want you to keep your identity, if functions and things, and keep the students where they feel like they belong to certain schools.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Hello, and welcome back to part 2 of our podcast. Mr. Hime, before we left, there was one question that I wanted to ask, and we just didn't get the opportunity yet, and that was about the virtual hours. Our parents did ask, what does online look like as far as hours that they have to if a parent works all day and then comes home at night? What do they have to do?
Well, depending on the age of the student, the flexibility, again, we're going to explore options of having teachers available at night, maybe 4 to 8, 3 to 8, or different times, because obviously the virtual, a lot of that will be at home, self-paced. The older students get, the more it gets, the one-on-one learning with them, themselves, and doing it on a computer, iPad, Chromebook. The thing we want to do is make sure we have teachers available, because if they get to a stopping point or they need help, they have somebody they can text, email, or make contact with to get that help. So we're going to explore the option of making teachers available at different hours. If if that's something that's requested enough by our parents or our surveys show. And, those are some of the things that we're going to try to ask and find out. And that's why we're encouraging people to ask questions.
Okay, now we're going to go to the safety aspect of our parents' questions. And the big one is, if we're going to require masks for our students, is the district going to fund that?
Yeah, we've already looked at purchasing. Obviously, we'd have to purchase small masks for our younger children and masks for our older children. Obviously, for our adults, the paper mask, we're going to have those available. We've talked about putting them in the classrooms, because right now where we are with masks, in our discussions is how much do we require them? Again, we're going to recommend them. I'm going to guess that there's parents who are going to expect their kids to wear a mask at school, no matter whether we require them or not. So we're going to have paper masks available. Again, a lot of parents will have masks for their students. Most students already have a mask. Most people have masks. I have a mask. You have a mask. We're wearing our mask. We'll continue to wear our personal mask, obviously. But if someone forgets their mask, we don't want to send them home. We'll have a box of the disposable masks that you see at a lot of stores and things you walk in. So we will have those available in various sizes for our students as they board buses in different situations where we feel they need a mask.
And to that note, we did have a parent ask, can they have patterns and what's appropriate on the mask? And
that'll get into your dress code issues. Obviously, there's going to be some things, and if your student comes to school with a mask that we don't feel is appropriate, again, that's an administration decision. I can't go around to all 30 sites and police that. So that's why another reason we'll have paper masks. We're not going to send a child home just because their mask doesn't seem to be appropriate. Hopefully this is something where we all work together. I think we're coming together as a people, and we all work together to work our way through this.
All right. Next question. How will outside play be? Sanitation of outdoor equipment and whatnot?
Well, obviously, that'll be something we work on. We're ordering more and more and trying to get more and more disinfecting equipment in. And, on a daily basis, the custodians can go out and disinfect the playground equipment. Not being an expert, but a lot of things you read outside is not near as concerning as inside, but that doesn't mean we won't disinfect the outside stuff. We will continue to do so.
Okay. Most people's favorite part of the day is breakfast and lunch. So how is that still going to look?
For the secondary this year is because we start so early as putting a breakfast break in between first and second hour and creating a grab-and-go breakfast. We're really close to finalizing that, where all students get to grab a breakfast between first and second. We're going to work a lot on social distancing in those situations and eating especially at the elementaries, eating in their classrooms and eating in smaller groups in various areas. So that'll look different at different sites. But again, the goal will be safety, keeping them apart. The child nutrition's doing a great job right now. They're looking at ordering and packaging so everything can be self-packaged where you can just grab it and go wherever you're going to go. So, at the high school, some kids could go to the gym, some kids could go to different areas. And try to keep it where you have your space to eat, because obviously we all like to wear our mask, but we can't do podcasts with the mask on very effectively. We can't eat with the mask on real effectively, and so we got to find ways to create social distancing when we're doing things that we can't wear a mask.
All right, thank you, sir. Now we go into the questions regarding COVID cases, the positive ones. Okay. What are our measures, and what can we share with families in regards to what we'll do with notification?
Well, one of the things is, it's new. So when you're dealing with the health department and us getting notified of positive cases, they call it need to know. That's a thing they're working right now to make schools need to know. One thing they would like for us to do is get a signed form. It'll be part of the enrollment packet where you sign it, so we can have that need to know if your child tests positive. And we'd like to get those back to make it simple. Obviously, the contact tracing and those things will be done through the health department. We'll work with them. And, if a child tests positive in your classroom, we got to follow our regular FERPA guidelines, and we're going to get better guidelines how to do that. But our ultimate goal will, if your student was in contact with somebody who had it, who tested positive, about it. So then you can make your decision whether you want to send, we're going to fumigate that school and disinfect it. But then you as a parent, once again, get to make the decision. Do we want to go to the hybrid model? Do we want to go to virtual, where we're working online with a teacher following the same path? Or do we want to come back to school that we know has been cleaned and sanitized? And, again, we know that face-to-face with a teacher is the best. That's not going to be the right option for every parent. That's not going to be the right option for every student for various reasons. So we have to work really hard to make the other options better. And we have worked really hard this summer with our leadership to do that.
All right, we had a few questions, and I know our team's working on it, but I wanted to address it for our families that have special needs students. And what does it look like for the high risk, and what are the measures we're taking and putting in place so that they can continue to receive their services that they have in the past?
One of our goals is to give every child an individual education plan and try to create situations where we can adapt to the needs of every child. But law requires us to adapt to the needs of every special education child. They already have an IEP or an individualized education plan. Therefore, you as a parent have your rights. So we're going to work the same as we do, but we're going to be very flexible. We will work with those parents to create that option that meets the needs of those students who have special needs. And so, we'd like to do that for all 14,000 students. But obviously, we're going to work, we'll have to work overtime with our ones that have the special situations to make sure we're meeting those needs, whether they're at home. And I don't even know if we talked about it. Food's another thing. We're going to work really hard to find a way to provide meals to students who choose to stay home. Maybe it'll still be in the 10-pack meal deal like we did, at one time or different things, but find a way where we get food to those students.
Now, the one thing before we end our podcast, because we're running out of time, is addressing our staff. We did not do that specifically because we're going to do another one, correct?
Yeah, we're going to send out a survey and send out some questions to staff because we're getting those. Obviously, we've got 2,000 employees plus, and there's a lot of them. They want to be heard, and they deserve to be heard. They work for us. My first thing is to say we are having discussions about what's safe for our adults. We also want to make sure our adults are safe. We want to make sure we create a productive working environment for our adults that's safe. So we're going to listen to them. We'd like to get questions, so submit your questions. With this in mind, that a lot of the staff questions are legal questions. And those legal questions are changing. So how leave is taken and some of those things will be more up to the state guidelines and the legal side of it than the superintendent side of it. I don't get to decide if we pay somebody who's not at work or not. That'll legally be decided. But we'll gladly answer those questions. I've talked to some of the principals about encouraging their staff members to start submitting questions, because when people start submitting questions, there are questions in there that I haven't thought of. I don't claim to be the expert on this. I'm not sure if there's an expert on this situation out there. We're all going through this together. So don't keep your questions to yourself. We used to always say there are no dumb questions. This is definitely a time when, we're looking at all the questions we get submitted and going through them, and we'll try to answer as many of them we can in the podcast and try to reassure you that we are working to make not only students safe, but our staff safe.
Thank you, Mr. Hime, again for your time. That is all we have available for today. We are going to continue our podcast weekly, and we know that families will continue to have questions. So if you are one that has a question, we would love you to submit that to info@lawtonps.org. Continue to follow us on our website and our social media. And until next time, Mr. Hime, thank you for joining me. And
see you next week.
That's right. Bye.